Hey guys, welcome back to Mo's Game Table. Today we're going to take a look inside Old School Tactical Volume 1, 2nd Edition, Eastern Front, 1941 to 1942. This is a game designed by Shane Logan and published by Flying Pig Games. Well, it's great to see this game back in print. It was out in 2022 as a Kickstarter, and as it said on the Kickstarter, this is not a reprint. It is the 2nd edition. And the game delivered just a little while ago, so I'm going to take a look inside with you. Before we take a look at the game, though, I want to talk about the elephant in the room. One of the things that some people have been complaining about on Facebook and in different war game groups, the missing counters in the game. There are some missing counters for anti-tank rifles, a BT-7, and a couple of other items. There are a few. There are not a lot of them, but there are a few that are missing. And yes, it's annoying. It's not the complete game. It's about a 99.9% game. You're missing a handful of counters, things that you can actually correct yourself. It's not like you're missing a sheet or 2 sheets of counters. That would be definitely a much more of a problematic error to have. But missing a few counters, while annoying, it's not the end of the world. So they have a PDF you can download and create your own. And if you want to spend, 20 minutes, you can make the counters yourself or pull some from one of the other games that you have in the series. So just wanted to touch on that because I know that's probably one of the first comments people are going to make on the video is, what about the missing counters? Like I have any control over that. I don't. I can't just snap my fingers and magically make them appear. Flying Pig has posted a PDF for you to download, for you to print out, for you to make your own counters. It's really not difficult to do. So that will solve the issue for now. If they can do reprints of regular counters at another time and send them out to Kickstarter backers, that'll be great too. But for now, it will not stop the game from being on a table and being fun. So let's take a look at the back of the box and see what this game's all about. Old School Tactical simulates squad-level combat through an easily learned game system. Volume 1 in the series concentrates on small unit engagements on the Eastern Front of 1941 to 1942. 2 players contest each scenario using counters representing the soldiers, guns, and vehicles of the period that fought these battles. On each turn, play goes back and forth between the sides as impulse points are spent to enable a player's forces to act. Units carry out attacks on the enemy using their firepower value against the enemy's defense value. Combat tables are used and 2 dice are rolled to resolve attacks. When the battle is over, casualty and victory points and scenario conditions determine the victor. The 2nd edition updates the components of Volume 1 with improved artwork and layouts. It also adds 2 training scenarios for new players and the latest rulebook. And for the components, we get 2 huge 30 by 41 inch mounted game boards with 1-inch hexes, 4 die-cut counter sheets, 27 luck cards, 36 unit data cards, 2 player aid cards, 4 dice, full color rules, and scenario books. It is for ages 14 and up, 2 players, and playing time is from 45 minutes to 5 hours. And at the top, you see an example of the map and the counters. You can see it is a very heavy box. It's tipping over in my hand, and I just dropped it down on the table. So that lets you know we got a lot of stuff in here to take a look at. So let's take a look inside and see what we get. All right, we got a pack of dice, a couple decks of cards, 5.65 rulebook, Playbook, player aid cards, counter sheets, and these 2 big heavy mounted maps. So let's set up the maps and take a closer look at the game. And here's a look at the winter map that comes with the game. It is a beautifully done map. Flying Pig always does beautiful maps. Love the art, love the size. Everything's easy to read and very well placed along the map. Hexes, good size 1-inch hexes, easy to read the hex numbers. Along the top, you have your turn track. Along the bottom left here, we have the impulse points. It'll be the bottom right for the player on the opposite side. And then likewise, on the other side, we have victory points and enemy casualty tracks along the other side of the map. Just a beautifully done map. And remember, if you're already familiar with OST, you're going to know this. If you're not and you're new to OST, don't be intimidated by the big map size expecting, oh wow, I'm going to be playing out on these massive battles all the time. No, you're going to use segments of the map for different scenarios. And they're going to be broken down by using either counters to map out boundaries, or you can use the neoprene strips, which come with the Kickstarter. And if you didn't get the Kickstarter, you can probably order them through the Flying Pig Games website. And it's not a bad thing to have to add in those little boundaries with the neoprene strips. They also look pretty cool. But really love these maps and really, really dig this winter map quite a bit. It is just a really beautiful map. The only thing missing is that Stalingrad map. So hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Let's see if we can get that one reprinted here pretty soon, because we definitely need that for OST Volume 1. And here's a look at the non-winter map that comes with the game. Beautiful terrain on this, a nice mix of different challenges for us to face in all the scenarios that come with the game. Again, you're going to be using sections of the map, not the entire map, for all the scenarios. There may be some scenarios that have the entire map out there. Hope there are. Hope we see more of them too, because these big, beautiful maps need to be out on the table, and all of the counters need to be on the map so we can have these big, epic battles. But really dig both of these maps. The only one thing that I will point out, there is one difference if you've not noticed it already looking at it, and that is very simple because of the contrast. The hexes and the hex numbers on this map don't pop as clearly as they do on the winter map for obvious reasons. Winter map, white snow background, is going to get that black text to really pop. Here it kind of blends in a little bit more, but it's not problematic. It's still easy to read, follows the same hex numbering, so it's not going to be difficult to find anything. You just have to look a little bit closer because of the darker background that will kind of blend in a little bit more. But overall, another beautiful map from Flying Pig Games. Next, we'll take a look at the player aids that come with the game. And if you've played any of the other OST games, you're going to recognize the same format for the player aids, which makes it very easy to go from game to game in the series. The top right, we have the turn sequence breaking down all the steps in the turn. Next to that, we have the terrain effects chart, giving us a listing of all the different types of terrain, the movement cost for foot, wheeled, and tracked vehicles, defense modifiers, and then whether the line of sight is blocked or degraded from that piece of terrain. Below that, we have the off-board artillery strike, accuracy and drift, and then diagrams for mortar, guns, and rockets, all explained to you for the drift direction. And along the bottom, we have the steps for airstrikes, bog down, and rally. And on the back, we have both the infantry and vehicle combat tables. Next, we'll take a look at the counter sheets that come with the game. On the first sheet, we have the Soviet forces. You have a mix of leaders, rifle units, shock, irregulars. Then you have guard units here. Along the bottom, we have a mix of vehicles, BA-20s, BA-10s, KV-1 and 2s, T-28s, T-34, model 1940, 1941, and the T-26, 1939. On the next sheet, we have German units. At the top, we have the SS, and we have Wehrmacht rifle, pioneers, assault units, flaks, grenade bundles, tank crews, snipers, Pack 36s, Pack 38s, Flak 36s, heavy machine guns, and along the bottom we have a mix of vehicles. Panzer 2s and 3s, Stugs, half-tracks, and Mortar 2s. On the next sheet we have some administrative counters along with the balance of the forces for both the Soviets and the Germans. And on the fourth and final sheet we have the remainder of the administrative counters for use in the game. Next, we'll take a look at a few examples of the data cards from the game. Along the top, we have the German units, and on the bottom, we have the Soviet units. We have the Mortar 2, heavy machine gun, and leaders for the Germans, T-34-85, anti-tank rifle, and NKVD squad for the Soviets. For the vehicles, you'll notice you get your movement, your front and flank defense, your high explosive firepower, secondary, and maximum range, all listed at the top. And along the bottom, you have the table based on the range for your to-hit number and the APFP, which is your armor-piercing firepower. Same thing for the anti-tank rifle, but it's pretty simple. Range is 0 to 4. Heavy machine gun is going to give you your movement, firepower, range, defense rating. It is a crude weapon and has sustained fire. For leaders, you have movement, defense, and then the command range of 1 through 4. This is a single-person counter. Gives +1 to the attack, +1 to hit, +1 to rally, +1 for OBA accuracy for your off-board artillery, +1 in melee, and adds 1 firepower and 1 defense in melee, and also allows group actions. Same thing for the NKVD squad as the machine gun. You have your movement, firepower, range, defense. This is an elite unit, gets a +1 in melee and +1 to rally. During play, having these cards out in front of you makes it much more easier to remember what all of the capabilities of your troops are on the map. And we'll take a look at a few examples of the luck cards that we have in the game. First one, Battle Hardened. Then we have Double Your Luck and Artillery Strike. Battle Hardened, your troops will remain steady under fire. Any single unit passes a gut check automatically. Use card instead of rolling for the gut check. So you can use this card instead of rolling for your gut check to make sure that your unit passes the gut check. Double Your Luck. At your game start, discard and draw 2 new luck cards. So if you don't like what you got in your hand right at the beginning of the game, you have that. You can discard those 2 cards and draw 2 new ones. Artillery Strike. Launch an artillery strike on the enemy. The target hex must be in line of sight of any good order unit. Firepower 6-3, accuracy 5. A great card to have in your hand to use at the opportune moment. Next, we'll take a look at the rules. This is a 23-page full-color rulebook. First page, we have the table of contents listing out all the different sections and all the rules covered under each section. Then we start off with Welcome to Old School Tactical. This is going to give you a breakdown of all the components in the box, so that way you can understand how to read your counters and all the maps, all the different administrative counters as well. Single person counters, snipers, leaders across branches, attaching your leaders, armor leaders, crude weapons, and then you have your crude weapon breakdown here. And one of the things I did not point out when we were looking at the counters is this red triangle at the top left that you see there. That is going to indicate your covered arc. Facing matters in this game, so make sure that whichever area you want a crude weapon or you want a vehicle to be facing, that is pointing at that direction, because otherwise you end up in a flank situation thinking you're just following a silhouette. No, you actually have to follow that triangle. You have your breakdown of the counter, like I was saying. It's going to give you an explanation of everything on the counter. Then we have sustained fire, abandoning weapons, support weapons, anti-tank support weapons, more support, satchel charges. Then you get your vehicles again. That's your unit facing for your covered arc. And it explains it here as well. Dual armaments, limited fire, foxholes and trenches, mines, fortification and wreckage counters, cover, bunkers, pillboxes, barbed wire, roadblocks, rubble, smoke, wrecks, terrain, a lot of different pieces of terrain. And then you have the actual physical terrain that you'll be fighting on. I'll explain to you here. Then we get into line of sight, everybody's favorite subject. A couple of examples of line of sight. Then we have the cards, luck cards, unit cards, which we've already looked at. Unit morale, rally, free rally, stacking limits, hidden units, limited actions, movement, vehicle movement and facing, bog down, enter and exit units, group move, rolling cover, assault move, airborne operations and aircraft loadouts, paradrops, combat tables, combat, moving fire, intensive fire, leader casualty roll, fire groups, infantry combat, your combat results, vehicle combat, illustrated example of vehicle combat up here, vehicle damage, abandoning your vehicle, collateral damage, melee phase, melee combat, your tank duels, concentrated attacks, opportunity fire, off-board assets, airstrikes, your OBA, your artillery, drift, structure collapse, and then we have a breakdown of all of the steps in the turn. The turn sequence here starting off with the turn marker, reinforcements, attached leaders, weapons, so on and so forth through the turns. Then we have the rules index on the final couple pages where you can just look up everything alphabetically. Then we have the glossary, an area for notes, and then we're at the back of the rule book. And lastly, we'll take a look at the playbook. This is a full color book listing out all the different scenarios in the game. We have a lot, 27 scenarios in OST Volume 1. And each scenario is going to be broken down in a similar fashion. It's going to give you the title of the scenario, the date, location, all the information you need for each of the scenarios. First two are training scenarios. Scenario 1 and 2, both are training scenarios. This is over the border, June 22nd, 1941, Russia. Gives you the number of turns, the map used, the coordinates on the map that you'll be using, which section of the map that is, the control hexes, the off-board assets, special rules, and then the victory conditions, as well as your German force mix and your Russian force mix. Then you have the gut check number and then the number of impulse points that both of the forces will start with. Same thing over here for irons in the fire. Then we get into the actual non-training scenarios, the game scenarios. A deadly race. June 27th, 1941, approaching the Berezina, Russia. This is going to be 8 turns, map 1. Map coordinates are going to be W14 to W25 on the west edge. Again, you're only going to be using sections of the map. I'm going to take a look as we're going through. We're not going to go through each scenario in detail, but I'm going to try to glance at each one, see if any of them use the entire map. And we have Sitting Ducks, the Commissar Order, Shattered, Partisan Payback, the Wolf's Hook. So far, all of these are breakdowns, just sections of the map, not the full one. Then we have the Brandenburgers, the Gingerbread House, the Salient, Bring Up the Guns, Wake Up Call, Lucky Ivan, as opposed to Crazy Ivan, The Last Minute, Cut Off, Chekhov's Bridge, Pushback, Chaos Reigns, Steiner's Stand, A Pair of Eights, Frozen, No Man's Land, Crossroads, The Guards, Hedgehog, Reinforcements for Hedgehog, and 501st Heavy. And that is the end of the playbook, and I did not see anything in there that showed the entire map. So looks like we're still needing some full map scenarios. Hopefully we'll see those in the future. And that is a look at everything you get inside of Old School Tactical Volume 1, 2nd Edition. This is a game designed by Shane Logan and published by Flying Pig Games. Well, as you can see, you get a lot of stuff in this box. 2 big, beautiful mounted maps, 4 counter sheets. You get the luck deck, you get the unit data cards, you get the playbook with 27 scenarios in it, the rule book, and then your player aids. 27 scenarios is a lot of game. That is going to keep everyone pretty busy for quite a while. Now, I did complain a little bit and saying I want to see a full map scenario, and I do. I really think it would be great to have full map scenarios, something that you could play at a con or with some friends or even solitaire on the table by yourself. I think it would be just epic to use the full size map and use all of it for a big scenario. So that's something, hopefully other people have created some that I'm not aware of, or maybe they'll put some out in the magazine. Just something I'd love to see because you got these big, beautiful maps, might as well utilize them. And if you've not played Old School Tactical before and you're looking for a tactical system, I strongly recommend it. It's a really easy to understand system. It plays real fast and you just can have a lot of fun with it. As you see, the component quality is fantastic. Yes, there are some missing counters to bring that up from what we talked about at the very beginning. They have put out the PDF so you can download them and print them out yourself and then make your own counters. Really not a big deal. Actually, I've got some here that were made. Actually, a buddy of mine made these for me because I was in the process of doing some other stuff. He got some chipboard printed out on sticker sheets and just put them on there. Thanks, Nick. Really appreciate that. Great job on those. So not really a big deal to make them yourself. It's a little frustrating that they're not in there, but hopefully they can get that corrected either in a future edition of YA Magazine, or they can get some errata counters out there, or print out some sheets and then send them out to people to get those missing counters. There's not a lot of them. Hopefully they can get that resolved that way. If not, we can just print them out on the PDF and just get counters on the table and start having fun. But overall, like I said, if you're looking for a tactical system, definitely want to check out is Old School Tactical. Well, I hope that helps you guys out if you'd be curious about this one. If you have any comments or questions, post them down below. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next time.